China has expressed its willingness to work with Arab and Islamic countries to end the Israel-Hamas war. Beijing is hosting foreign ministers from the Palestinian Authority, Indonesia, Egypt, Saudi Arabia and Jordan in search of a resolution to the conflict.
国际社会必须紧急行动起来，采取切实有效措施，阻止这场悲剧继续蔓延扩大。中国在这场冲突中坚定站在公道和正义一边。冲突爆发以来，我们一直在为推动冲突降温、保护平民安全而努力，为扩大人道救援、防止人道灾难而奔走，为重回两国方案、早日实现巴勒斯坦问题全面、公正、持久解决而呼喊。
China says that the aim of the Beijing talks is to find a path to de-escalation of the conflict and to allow humanitarian aid into the Palestinian enclave. The delegation is also looking to pile pressure on the West to reject Israel's justification of its actions against Palestinians as self-defense. The group is working towards meeting representatives from all 5 permanent members of the UN Security Council. And for more, CNA's Olivia Song joins us. She is live for us in Beijing. Ollie, what has China's position been, in fact, going into these talks?
Well, China's top diplomat Wang Yi making it clear, he said that the international community must, quote, act urgently. He said that countries need to work together to quickly cool down the situation in Gaza and restore peace to the Middle East as quickly as possible. Now, these statements from Mr. Wang are largely consistent with China's position that it's held from the start of this crisis, calling for an immediate ceasefire and end to the war, and repeating the call once again for a two-state solution and the establishment of an independent Palestinian state for long-term peace. Now, we also heard from the Foreign Ministry spokesperson who was asked about the progress of these two-day talks, and this is what she had to say.
我们愿同广大阿拉伯伊斯兰国家一道，继续为推动早日平息加沙战火、缓解加沙人道危机、实现巴以和平共处、促进中东和平稳定做出不懈的努力。
Well, we should note that from the start of this crisis that China has not overtly condemned Hamas nor mentioned the group in its official statements. And this once again was seen in Mr. Wang's statements today. Now, China has tried to walk this diplomatic tightrope, although it has been more critical of Israel. Mr. Wang today quoted as saying that Israel should stop its, quote, collective punishment on the people of Gaza and open up a humanitarian corridor as soon as possible. We also should remember that Mr. Wang had previously said that Israel's actions had gone beyond that of self-defense previously as well. Dawn?
Ollie, the Israel-Hamas conflict is indeed a crisis. How much impact are these talks actually going to have in cooling tensions at all?
Well, Dawn, if it's anything to go by, today we attended a briefing that was held for foreign media by Israel's ambassador to China, in which she said that now is not the time to call for a ceasefire, saying that she hoped instead for a clear statement for the unconditional release of hostages held in Gaza, that she hoped that this would be issued instead, adding that putting pressure on Israel with regard to facilitating humanitarian aid into Gaza is politically motivated. And observers say that these talks may not yield any sort of real tangible outcome. But we have to remember that these are part of talks by the Arab and Muslim majority nations, with officials meeting others from the 5 UN Security Council countries, in which it is calling for a ceasefire and for more humanitarian aid into Gaza. China also keen to highlight from the Foreign Ministry readout that Beijing was the first stop in these visits, which is said showed a high degree of trust. Mr. Wang also said that China is a good friend and brother of Arab and Muslim countries, adding that it's willing to work with these countries to make unremitting efforts to quell the war in Gaza as soon as possible. Now, this comes as China has sought to play a increasing role on the global stage and in the region. We just heard from Chinese state media that Chinese President Xi Jinping spoke with his French counterpart Emmanuel Macron over the phone today, in which both leaders said it is imperative to avoid further deterioration of the Palestinian-Israeli situation, especially the emergence of a more serious humanitarian crisis. Now, this also has to be viewed amid that rivalry between China and the U.S. and this diplomatic tussle in which China is seeking to become a counterbalance to the U.S. in the Middle East region, also as it has brokered that deal between Iran and Saudi Arabia earlier in that year, restoring diplomatic relations, also sending its special envoy to the Middle East to the region to hold talks, although that has not yielded any tangible outcomes so far. Dawn?
Well, we have to wait to see what can be achieved from these talks. Ollie, thank you very much for that. Olivia Song there in Beijing.